I'm Bethany Monahan, and this is the Holistic House Podcast. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, Dani, to the Holistic House Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited. I know
Me too.
we have been friends for, gosh, I don't even, how long has it been? Several years.
Four, three.
I think, yeah, at least four. At least four. And for the audience that's listening
Yeah.
in, I think when you take a leap of faith, which we'll dive into, you meet the people that you're supposed to meet on the journey, and that's actually how Dani and I met. We both on a yoga trip, a yoga retreat. We were roommates, and funny enough, although we were living in the same city, we met in the middle of the Tyrrhenian Sea, wasn't it? The Tyrrhenian Sea
Sure did.
in Greece. In Greece. So here we are many years later, and it's such an honor to have Dani on this podcast because Dani is not someone who just talks the talk, she walks the walk. And today's episode it's going to be all about soulful entrepreneurship. And that's a really big part of theme, I should say, of the Holistic House podcast is soulful entrepreneurship. And really, what does that mean? I know the word entrepreneurship has been kind of a buzzword for many, many years, and people throw it around, and it can mean different things for different people. But for me, and I know for Dani, which is why I felt so passionate about bringing her on to talk about this subject, is soulful entrepreneurship is really being in alignment with your soul, with your purpose, and that comes from not the logical mind, that comes from a greater part of your being. And so I'm very excited to dive in without further ado. Dani, everybody meet the beautiful, beautiful Dani.
Hey, y'all.
So, okay, wow, where do we begin? So many things we can talk about.
I know.
I want to set the stage because I will say too for the listeners, many, many years ago when Dani left the 9 to 5 corporate world that didn't feel aligned for her, she had done it before I did it by I think a couple of months.
Mhm.
And at the time, I didn't have another example or somebody that I could relate to that had been in that same situation. And so, Dani, I think I've told you this before, but I'll say it again to the listeners. Like, Dani, by taking that leap and by following her soul to do something more aligned, she gave me permission to do the same. And so we'll dive into that. But yeah, setting an example for so many women. So I can't wait to dive in. So Dani, tell me,
Definitely.
take take us back to your 9 to 5. Take us back to
Yeah.
that world, that chapter, that version of you. Like, was there a moment where you were like, this just isn't for me anymore?
Yeah. No, for sure. So I was in like the thick of financial corporate America for about 3.5 years. And I would say right at the tail end of my time there was when I was starting I was starting to feel overwhelmed, overworked, undervalued. Um, and it's not really a peg at my boss or the company or the people that I worked with because I loved my team. I absolutely loved the people that I worked with, the person I worked under. I felt supported by them specifically, but not in like the larger picture. And so it just so happened that I was an admin, but I was also a data analyst, but I was also an executive assistant. So I carried all of these hats. And I didn't feel like I was being compensated for all of those hats. And I also didn't feel like, I don't know, I had just finished like another teacher training and something just hit me square in the face and was like, Dana, do you really think that it's valuable to be spending 8+ hours of your day sitting at a desk, at a computer, running numbers and reports and responding to people who ultimately aren't going to make that big of an impact in the life of Dani, right? Um, and so once I got to that point, that's when I started looking for other creative outlets outside of teacher training because I've taught yoga for I'm going on 6 years this year. Um And so that's always been a creative outlet for me for as long as I can remember. But I wanted something more. I wanted to like be working with my hands. I wanted to still be interacting with people. I liked the client relationship building part of things. I liked the vendor management part of things that I was doing in corporate America. So I wanted to take out the things that I enjoyed from that 9 to 5 and still transferable skills really is what they are, right? So taking those transferable skills and putting them into a place where I could be a little bit more creative and there was a little bit more room to travel and meet different kinds of people and do different kinds of work. Um, and so once I started to feel burnt out, that's when that's when the downfall came. And I think it was a mix of having those different hats, but also was mid COVID. And so I wasn't in the office. I wasn't interacting with people. I was literally at my office desk for 9 to 10 hours a day, just cranking out emails, cranking out reports. Um, and it just wasn't serving me. Long term, Dani did not want to be behind a desk for 8 hours a day for the rest of her life, 5 days a week. It just like, it didn't add up to who I am and what I wanted to do. It didn't make me excited to get up in the morning and do life. So I dived into the wedding industry and I've never left. And I could not be happier. I absolutely love, love, love the space that I'm in. I'm grateful for all the different avenues that I get to be creative in the wedding space. It's not just like one little box. I get to maneuver myself in so many different ways and do so many different things. And I feel very grateful for past Dani taking that big leap because it wasn't easy.
Did you know when you were in that moment, when you know you were in that season, did you know that you needed to leave? Was it kind of a sudden thing, or were you thinking about leaving for many years? What did that look like?
I would say it was probably around like 6 to 8 months that I was like pondering, like, do I really want to be here? Like, is this really what I want to do? Do I want to leave the stabilization and financial security of having the 9 to 5? I mean, I was making over 100K at 25, like under 25 years old. And so that was like super unheard of. And my parents were very proud of, like the company that I was at and the establishment that I had. And it was all fun and games from an outsider's perspective, but like inside, Dani was like, this is not where we're supposed to be. There's something bigger.
Yeah, yeah. I can relate to that. I know we've shared in that where during COVID time, staring at three monitors and crunching numbers and just going to bed feeling like it's kind of when I started to wake up that and realize that I'm a soul and I'm not my mind, I'm not my body, I'm not
Hmm.
my emotions. Like,
Hmm.
wait, there's something in here, and it's I can't describe this energy, this emotion that I feel, and I'm not serving the capacity that I'm here.
It's like an intuition. It's an internal intuition. And like this little voice is like, hey, this is all fun and games, but there's something else. We got to keep
Yeah.
digging.
And I think for the listeners, there's so many people and especially women who feel this way and they just don't know what it is, what to do with it because we live in this and this is really going to go in deep into kind of cultural conditioning, but we live in this world similar to what you said where your parents, my parents were so proud of the 9 to 5, the corporate, the six plus figure income in my 20s and so there's not really a roadmap and where it's celebrated externally, internally it's like, well, but no, this isn't the life that I'm creating. And so there's like a big dissonance in that. And I think even since you and I have both left, the world is waking up. People are accepting and becoming more creative and they're realizing they're creators, that we can create anything and everything, which we'll dive into. But what would you say to somebody who was in a similar situation where you're like, okay, their parents are so proud, they're still in their 9 to 5 right now, and they're just not sure where to go or what to do with it?
I would say a couple of things. One, your parents will always be your parents. and they're always going to love you, and they're always going to be proud of you, and they're always going to support you. As long as you communicate that what you're doing is filling your cup up. You know what? Your parents are never going to shoot you down when you're like, hey, I started something and it makes me feel so alive and I love it. And I'm so passionate about it. Like, let me tell you about it. Your parents are never going to shut you down. Um, so keeping that in the back of your mind and knowing that, yes, they're proud of you for your accomplishments right now. And you should be equally proud of yourself because it took work to get to where you are. But the stepping out of that doesn't make you a failure at all in any way, shape, or form. And lastly, just trust. Trust is hard. It's really freaking hard, especially when you're taking that big of a leap and you're leaving such security, such comfort, um, and a world that you've known your entire life, probably, right? Especially if your mom and dad are also 9 to 5 corporate people and they don't run their own business. You've never really had an outlet where you see that. And so not being afraid to be the example and trusting that your intuition, your gut reaction to things has such high value, and we don't ever give it enough credit. But when you start tapping into that internal dialogue where you yourself are like, hey, like, I really want to try this. And even if it's not like, okay, I'm dumping my 9 to 5 tomorrow and I'm starting this entrepreneurship journey next week, maybe it's a slow progression. It doesn't have to, like, there's not one set recipe for everyone. So I think keeping those 3 things in mind is important. Always trust your gut. Know that your parents love and support you, especially when you're doing something that makes you feel alive. And don't be afraid to take a step back. It could be a quarter of a step, it could be half a step, it could be the whole entire 100%. It doesn't make you a failure. And starting over is just an opportunity for growth.
Nuggets of wisdom. And
Yeah.
I think it's so important to be surrounded by community that really celebrates you and elevates you like this, right? In these containers, whether it's listening to a podcast or joining a physical in-person community or
Yeah.
whatever it may be, where you're surrounding yourself with people such as Dani who has been there, has walked the walk, like just knows from personal experience. I think that that's the most potent form of guidance, is to work with and through somebody who's already done it. And to Dani's point, I think I can resonate with that too, with the whole parents thing, that
Yeah.
a lot of times when I observe the emotion, it's misinterpreted. At least for me, it was, is, well, how are you going to do this? And it comes from fear within them
Mhm.
because they love you and they want you to be safe. They want you to have security and have the financial income that's necessary to live the life that you desire to live. And so the way that they know how for that to be provided is through what they know, right? And it kind of stops there. But when I think about changing lineage and generations, is like Dani said, sometimes you might just be the one that's the catalyst to do it different. And what an honor that is, to walk a
Mhm.
path that's not easy, because there is, I mean, even if you do follow examples of other people, like, your specific journey is going to be different.
Yep.
It's going to be different. You can leverage your community, you can model somebody else, but at the end of the day, like, your soul is asking of you to go through this transformation that's so uniquely yours, and only you can go through it. And so that's something too, like, as long as you're in open conversation with your family and with your community of like, look, I know you love me and I know that this was your path and I know that you're just doing this out of my best interest, but I just want you to trust me that I've got this. And
Mhm.
and that faith piece, right? Which Dani mentioned, is I never, and maybe Dani, you can kind of speak on this. I never really understood when people talked about blind faith
Mhm.
until I needed
Yeah.
it over and over and over again. Like, oh, I thought that's cute. Like, faith, I understand that concept of faith, right? But blind faith and believing in something you cannot yet see in the tangible material realm. You can't touch it, you
Mhm.
can't smell it, you can't feel it, you can't hear it. And that's such, back to cultural conditioning, like, that is such a big part of, and again, we're waking up to the fact that we're not just physical beings, but that's such a big part of the journey of blind faith and the trust, taking a leap into something is knowing that there is so much happening in the
Mhm.
unseen in the energy world that will eventually materialize, but it might not happen as quick as you're used to because we're all conditioned to be in this like instantaneous
Mhm.
get everything yesterday
And
culture.
to your point, I also think that mindset plays a really big part into that. Not just the trusting part, but the blind faith part.
Mm.
Being able to trust in something that, like you said, you can't manipulate, you can't see, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, you don't even know if it's going to happen, but you do up here. So being able to like rewire your brain and catching yourself when you find that negative internal dialogue, or I don't have enough money to do that, or I am never going to be able to travel there, or I'm never going to make as much as I did in corporate America doing my own thing. Like changing that and rewiring those words so they're working for you instead of against you helps so much in manifesting and building that support behind the blind faith that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the identity shift. I mean, goodness, it all starts in the mind. And I'm
Yeah.
still learning that. Gosh, I mean, there's so many things like they say the external is a reflection of the internal.
Mhm.
And there is lag time, and I'm learning that, and it can be painful. And but you know, when your thoughts are in, and I'm going to talk a little bit of energy here, but like your thoughts exist in the thought realm,
Mhm.
and then you have an emotional realm and a physical realm, and it literally drops in frequency in that order. And so anything that it starts in the thought realm, I mean, look at everything that's created around you in the physical form. It started
Started with
as
a
a
thought.
thought. And really, what magnetizes this is a little bit of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work is that brain heart coherence. How can we bring a thought and bring it into the physical realm? It's really by magnetizing it through that elevated emotion. And so there's so many different ways, like Dani said, there's so many different ways that that can be done.
Yeah.
But but you have to be an observer of your thoughts. And so I guess Dani, for the listeners, this is so helpful. They're thinking about leaving their security and following something. Maybe they know what that is, maybe they don't know. And so like you said, you don't have to make these super big leaps like we did and leave our 9 to 5. You can start to incorporate some things into your life and play with it.
Yeah.
Did you know when you were in that season of your life? Did you know? And I want you to dive in and let everybody know what exactly you do and what you've been creating.
Yeah.
But did you know that you wanted to get into the wedding industry at that time, or were you still in this like experimental phase of your life?
Totally experimental. Um, I had right around the time I quit, I had just started doing social media for the yoga studio that I graduated teacher training for. And that was like my first non-corporate creative outlet where I was like, we're gonna do some fun. I'm so excited. Um, and I enjoyed in my corporate job, like I mentioned before, I was trying to take out things that I really enjoyed and things that I was good at that I could transfer to something else. And part of one of those things was events. They were much smaller because it's a finance company, and so it was a lot less glamorous and a lot less luxurious than what I currently do. But it was still like the process of being the point of contact, of coordinating things, of booking people's travel and making sure that like there's a car to pick them up at the right time and they're arriving at the right place and everyone has an itinerary and the food is ordered on time and dietary restrictions are taken care of, and all of those like nitty gritty details that you don't really think about when it comes to planning like a meeting for a bunch of bankers. I loved those little things. And so as I was searching for something else to add to the stability point from not only a financial standpoint, but also from like an emotional standpoint, like I wanted to feel good in what I was doing. Um, I was just looking for event assistant positions. That was like the general, I kept it very open. Um, so I I really I don't even remember exactly how it happened, but I came across um a well-known wedding planner here in Charlotte on Instagram. She was not talking about hiring. She was not posting that she was hiring. I just loved her work. I loved it. And so I followed her for a little while, and then finally I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is she doesn't respond at all, or she just blatantly is like, hey, I'm not hiring right now. I have nothing to lose, right? I have my stable job. I'm I'm just I'm exploring. And that's how I landed in the wedding space. We had one conversation, and she was like, my coordinator actually just quit. So
Mm.
can you come do a wedding with me in 2 weeks as like a live like interview? And I said, I'm there. Say less. And that's how it all started. Truly. That's how it all started.
Mm.
So I dove into the coordination and planning side of things in the luxury space for about 4 years. And I've taken a step back from the coordination and planning piece, not fully. I still have a foot in. I fill in my gaps where I can with coordination. But my new baby, my new found creation of art is photography. And so the beautiful part about photography is that I get to not only capture weddings and these beautiful still moments of family and friends gathering that usually don't see each other more than once a year. But I also get to work with local businesses, and I get to do branding, and I get to meet families and couples and babies and individuals who are just looking to get a little bit of spice in their life and need a new headshot or just want to feel beautiful for 30 minutes. Um, and so I love the way that I have allowed myself to transition from one thing to another without criticizing myself for leaving one thing to start something else. Very similar to what I said about, like taking a step back from corporate America and trying something creative or trying something that's calling you. It doesn't have to be full. Like you can do multiple things at a time. There are people who have 8+ jobs and still like go on vacation and love life and don't feel overwhelmed. And so I love that I have been able to transition from corporate to wedding, and now within the wedding it's like a tree. There's so many different branches and so many different leaves and places that I get to be a part of and still learn. I think that's my favorite part. I'm still learning. There's always something to like pick up or tweak or understand in a different perspective, and it's exciting. It's so fulfilling. I love being the point of contact for people who are looking to document and create experiences for themselves.
Goodness, I mean, your energy is so palpable. Like the aliveness, and I'm sure those watching, if you're able to watch this episode, you can see that. You can even hear it in Dani's voice.
I love it. I love my job.
This okay, when we talk about like soulful entrepreneurship, you can feel Dani's soul like literally jumping out of her body. The excitement and something that I've been kind of witnessing this pattern, which I think is so beautiful, and I want to talk about for a moment because when Dani was talking about her experience working in corporate America, she didn't just talk about the things that she didn't like, and she didn't crap talk, for lack of better words, the 95. And I'm like, wow, that's so refreshing because I'll speak for myself. Like I was so anti, I was done with it. And you talk about
Mhm.
the power of the mind, the power of words, like what Dani did. And I think this is like a nugget of wisdom that I'm reflecting on as I'm listening to you. And I think could serve the audience is, Dani said when I was in my 9 to 5 corporate America job, there were things that I didn't like. She took inventory. And there are things that I did really like. And how can I leverage that? So instead of, and you liked your team and you liked aspects of your job. And so instead of saying, like, it's not so black and white, like, let me close this and let me dive over here.
Mhm.
And, just transparently, that's how I'm working on rewiring that part because life isn't so black and white. So it's not just like corporate America or nothing. Like, that season is not lost. You really took inventory and said, okay, what really lights me up about this? What am I good at? And then you took those skills and you dove into the wedding coordination. And then you took what you loved there. And so I'm seeing, it's like a Steve Jobs quote that everything, the dots always connect looking backwards. It's one of my favorite
Yeah.
quotes, is that nothing was lost. And it's not there are these micro chapters that you're writing, but they all literally have this fluidity of coherence within them and synergies within them, and it's just this continual process of creation. And the other thing that you said too that was like really stood out to me was when we think about why we would not leave something stable, we talk about financial stability. And I know especially for women in today's day and age that tend to be more self-supporting at later in life, that financial stability feels like it's a big part of the topic and conversation, and it should be for good reason. And what doesn't get talked about is another form of stability that you brought up, which was that emotional stability. I would love to dive into that a little bit more because, it's not just all about the money. That's one important part. But we live in a day and age where mental illness is at a record high. People are stressed, and at least in America, it's normal to be stressed when
Yeah.
busy. Like when I ask people, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm busy. I'm stressed." And that's like almost like a badge of honor, but what about this emotional stability piece? Like we are at a moment in our world where we have to make a change. We have to make a change. I mean, we're not going to survive as a species. We quite literally need to start tapping into the fact that yes, we need financial stability, but if we can taper down our consumeristic behavior and we can actually look at what's necessary to live, that is actually not such a big critical component. Like, let's talk about this emotional stability. What does that look like for you?
What does emotional stability look like for Dani? Well, what a loaded question. I think that it starts with yourself. So for me, it started with a lot of internal work. Zero to do with my job or my camera or coordinating or planning weddings, and everything to do with just who I am at my core. What do I value? What makes me feel alive? What makes me feel supported? What makes me want to continue growing? And speaking to myself honestly, like being so raw, even if it's not something that you want to say out loud or not something that you want to hear, like being super raw with what you need in order to feel supported and giving that to yourself first. So practicing whatever it is that you need, for example, um patience for me was a big thing. And that ties into trust, right? Being patient when you have nothing and maintaining a good, humble, grateful attitude when you do have everything. And so for me, the patience was the financial component, being patient enough and trusting that eventually it will come. And that all has to do with like a money mindset, right? Being able to clear out those negative internal thoughts. And like I said before, rewiring your thoughts in your brain so they're working for you instead of against you. Knowing that money is just as fluid as your breath. If there's more oxygen, there's more money, and it'll come. You just got to trust. You got to stay honest to what you're doing, which takes me back to the emotional stampede. If I can stay honest with myself emotionally and I can surround myself with other people who understand where I'm at and are willing to meet me where I'm at, I have the full circle. So I think it's the emotional stability piece for me starts with understanding Dani's foundation. What does Dani need to feel supported? And like taking the money piece out of it for a second, right? Because we are just talking about the emotional stability of things. So being able to trust that if I sit down and I'm frustrated or I don't understand how to do something or I'm confused as to why I'm not getting the clients that I'm getting, like being able to sit down and be like, okay, what do I need right now? How can I zen out, so to speak? That's the yogi in me talking. But how can I level myself out and remember that there is no need to worry? It's going to come. I have all the tools that I need. But I need to be honest with myself. Do I need rest? Do I need to put down the creative outlet for a day or two and go occupy my brain with something else? Do I need to call a friend who is also in the creative space, who's also an entrepreneur who gets it? Do I need to just sit down and cry for a hot minute? But meeting myself there allows me to feel stable in the emotional piece in my work. Because if I can take care of Dani's cup outside of the photography, the coordination, the yoga, the whatever, if this is solid, the rest of it is going to flow the way that it needs to.
Mm. That's so good. That's so good because it's almost like I see it as in parenting the inner children, right?
Yeah.
It's like we've got to show up for us, and if we don't have the energy, if we don't have what we need in these body temples and our mental and our emotional, then how can we expect ourselves to really be a portal of creation?
Mm-hmm.
I think this brings me to a topic I'd really love to touch on because so many women, and I know so many of the listeners are feeling this because it's something that we're going through, is unwiring, I guess untangling is the way I'm seeing it, this hustle culture, which is a big part of this podcast, is I really want to dive into how women, and I know you and I both are still in that untangling,
Yeah.
rewiring, getting back to home, right? This is the homecoming journey. That's my intention of all of this, is how can we have real, raw, vulnerable conversations and just talk about what actually we're feeling and experiencing, and not from a place of this is how it should be because of cultural conditioning, but when we think about taking that time, like Dani said, and coming back into that space and nourishing what you need, whether that's rest or that's a cry or being in nature or whatever it might be, taking a
Yeah.
yoga class with Dani. Without that, without setting aside hustle culture, you can't really tap into your feminine creative portal of infinite possibilities.
The divine feminine requires rest. And hustle culture is literally the opposite. So I think, and I feel like you and I have talked about this, especially as we've started to dive into like the feminine energy and learning what being a divine feminine is, like embodying what that is. Um, Slowing down, slow the heck down. I have to tell myself this all the time. I'm not perfect. I cannot tell
Yeah.
you that I have mastered this. Um, it is a daily practice, but reminding yourself that there is no rush to get from point A to point B. It goes back to the trust. Trust that everything happens at its own time. I think I've said this to you. I don't believe in coincidence. And you can chalk that up to my spirituality. You can chalk that up to just my human beliefs or who I am. But I don't believe in coincidence. I don't. I truly believe that there is a higher power, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, but there is something greater than us. And the energies that work through that to get to us totally align and where we go and what we do and what happens to us and when it happens to us. So learning how to not be in a rush and just trusting that things are going to happen as they're supposed to happen, when they're supposed to happen, with whom they're supposed to happen, is important. It's more important than anything else. trusting that timing is everything. Just because you want something right now does not mean that it's meant for you in this given moment. And you have to learn to be humble enough to accept that and be like, okay, not right now. It's smaller than this, but on a daily practice, I'm staring at my beautiful, luscious dog who's taking up the whole bed of two naps. Um,
Luna,
every
beautiful Luna.
every time I go on a walk with Luna, I find myself finding a faster pace to get around the same block that we walk every single time we go out. Why? Why am I in a rush to get back to the house? And I find myself like literally talking out loud to myself sometimes, Dani, slow down. There is no rush.
Hmm.
The more you rush it, the less energy you're going to have, the less rest you're going to have, the less time for yourself to refill that cup up you're going to have, which then deters the whole entire point. Have you seen the I don't know if it's on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I've seen it on Instagram where it's like a trend and people post different kinds of videos of just like life and the caption on top is I forgot this is the whole point.
Yes, that's a trending thing at the
That
moment.
is what is coming to my mind right now.
Yeah.
The whole point is to live. How
Yes.
can we truly live out a fulfilled life for us, not for anybody else, for us as individuals, if we don't slow down and enjoy it?
Hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like going on vacation and doing back to back events and back to back tours and back to back food things and never having some downtime to just look at the scenery or walk around a strange corner. Or, I mean, like, there's so many things, you know what I mean? When you pack out your schedule, you don't allow time for divine intervention. There's too much control, which is another piece. As a creative, it's hard sometimes to relinquish that control, whether it's in your art or in the spiritual realm that we're talking about right now. It's hard to relinquish control. It comes back to the conditional things that we are ingrained with, right? Like being able to control how much money you make, being able to control where you're going to work, being able to control what kind of car you're going to drive, etc., etc. The list goes on. But letting go of that control allows you to not only tap into your feminine side, but it opens a whole freaking portal where you trust timing, you trust yourself, and it all falls into place when it should. Might not be the timing that you have in your brain, but it all falls into place.
It almost never is the timing that you have in your
No.
brain. I don't think that there's a single point in my life
Correct.
where every magical moment happened not on my timing.
No.
Not on my timing. And that takes surrender and
Mhm. Like
blind
true
faith.
surrender, not just, okay, I'm going to let it happen. Like truly believing that
Yeah.
and truly letting it go.
Yeah. Yeah. You say Dani and I are very connected with nature, and that's, a big part of the homecoming is the holistic living piece. And I know Dani spends a lot of time in nature. I mean, her dog's name is Luna, which I
Mhm.
love.
Yeah.
I think about nature when Dani's talking about slowing down, and
Mhm.
nature just continues to, the more time I spend, because I'm not filling my schedule with productivity every moment, I'm unconditioning that version of me when I'm in nature, it's like, wow, look at Mother Gaia as the greatest teacher of what it's like to be in your feminine energy.
Mhm.
Forceful, I mean, a force to be reckoned with. I think about I'm currently living at the beach. I look at the beach and like look at the waves and the power, but the grace and the ease and the fluidity and nature never is in a rush. It just isn't. Nature just knows, hey, provision, the rain's gonna come, the sun's gonna come out. Like, I'm just gonna be and exist, and I'm going to be utilized the way that God intended. And, like, oh, like humans, I think, are quite literally the only species for good. I mean, because we have the power of free will and choice in our mind, but like, we're the only ones that think that our agenda is like the right way. And that's not really working well for us. I mean, look at what's happened. Well, Well, maybe we should go back, the homecoming, back home to like the simplicity of how it was. And so that's something that came to mind as Danny was sharing. And then the other thing, gosh, like there were so many nuggets of wisdom. I just wanted to give her a mic and put her in front of like 10,000 women. I'm like, wait, I saw that vision actually. So wanted to share that. Um, Danny was talking about there's no space when we're just always filling our schedule. And I had a mentor who once told me that when we constantly do and we're trying to make something happen, it's if you look at it like maybe it's a child or something, like it's running away from you because you're chasing it. Like nothing wants to, you're literally pushing it away. But if you play with this, coming to it in a slow, easeful manner, and then kind of sitting back and tapping into that receival or that slow cadence, it wants to come to you, and I think that that's something that at least has been true for me is that when we're not constantly in chase, which is in do more equals more work equals more a bigger outcome. And that's actually not it. Like I'm reading this book now called Deep Work by Cal Newport, and it's about doing the deep work, not doing more work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And that's really that aligned work. So, Danny has been in this creation process, in this discovery process to figure out what is that thing that lights me up. And again, I brought it to our attention before, but like when you see Danny like come to life, right? It's a palpable, like, whoa, I can feel that, and I think for the listeners, it's like, what does that look like for me? And I'd love to just spend a little bit of time talking about really my goal of my intention, I should say, of this podcast is that you don't have to take the quantum leap, the leap of faith, fully leaving the thing, especially if you don't know what you're getting into. But how can you start to open up that childlike curiosity and start to play more and say, okay, just take inventory, like Danny said, like just start to notice how are you spending your time? Does it fill your emotional cup? Does it fill you up? Does it light you up? And if the answer is no, then that's okay. Like, I don't believe we have one specific purpose in life, like one purpose. I haven't found my purpose. Our purpose is to continuously recreate ourselves and find our purpose in every moment and every minute that there's breath in our lungs. And so I think for the listeners, and this has been my journey right now, I'm like, okay, what lights me up? I like to talk to women and I like to share raw, vulnerable conversations about our journey. And like, listen, we're all guides for each other and nobody has figured it out and nobody's an expert no matter what they say. And how can we all create a safe space to come back home? And part of that homecoming looks different for every single woman. And so I think it's really important to start to get curious about what lights you up. And so if that's like creating pottery, sign up for a pottery class without the expectation you have to become a master potter or turn it into a
zero
business.
Expectations. Zero.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what you're going to create or what it's going to look like or if you're going to do it for the rest of your life. Just go do it. Just go do it. Go try. And if you hate it, you hate it. And if you love it, you found another activity that you really enjoy doing. Why would you want to pass up on an opportunity to try something new on the off chance that it like lights a fire under you and you're like, holy moly, I want to spend all my free time doing this.
You'll never know till you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or taking a yoga class or gosh, it could be, and it doesn't even have to be with the intention of like, I'm going to start something out of this. It could just be that playful nature. I think as adults, we are creators. We are creators and we're creations. And so how often do you play outside of what your company or your job tells you that you need to create? How often are you in like authentic creation? Like, no, oh, I make dinner every night. Well, you dread that, right? Back to that energetic piece. Like, how often are you genuinely lit up by life creating something and just getting curious about that? I mean, Danny, do you have any thoughts about how that's looked like for you, or how the listeners can dive into that
Yeah,
journey?
I think especially speaking from a female perspective, it took a while for me to find true play outside of, because you say play and the first thing I think of is being creative, right? Because that's the world that I live in. And while that's all fun and dandy and that might work for somebody, multiple people, it doesn't work for everybody, right? There's not one recipe. So starting small. I think starting small is always good, especially when you're trying something, you're a little hesitant, you're like, I don't know, this feels kind of weird. I've never done this. I'm not used to this. I don't have an example for this. Where do I start? Start small. And with the childlike play, it can be as simple as buying yourself an adult coloring book, getting some crayons or some colored pencils, and instead of jumping right to your computer or to your phone when you wake up, taking 10 minutes. That's not a lot of time. Take 10 minutes to open up that coloring book and just color. It doesn't have to be perfect. The patterns don't have to be perfect. You can color outside the damn lines. I mean, like, do what you want, scribble for all I care. But like allowing yourself the time to like almost like blocking off that time for yourself, especially if you're a calendar person and you're very corporate and you're, like you're used to a regimented schedule, building that into your regimented schedule. 5 to 10 minutes. Allow yourself to color. You like to sing? Go put on your headphones and go for a walk, stand outside, maybe even in your closet or in your shower. I don't know, whatever safe space is for you, and sing. Sing your favorite song right now. Um, what else have I done that's like really simple and easy to apply? Um, Chalk. My boyfriend and
Mm.
I do weekly date nights and we alternate who gets to decide what we're doing. And a couple of weeks ago, it was my turn and I was like, I want to play. I want to draw. I want to be silly. Like, I don't want there to be any expectations. I just want us to like have fun. So I bought chalk. And I was like, let's go sit outside on the sidewalk and create whatever we want for the next 30 minutes. And again, not a lot of time, not very consuming, but so much fun. So much fun. There's someone I follow on Instagram who is also a Charlotte native, and she posted yesterday a video of her dancing in the middle of the airport. And she was like, conditioning myself to dance in the middle of public areas so I can condition myself to remember that it's okay to be seen. And it's okay to do something that I really enjoy in the middle of public, even though nobody else is doing it. Who gives a crap what anybody else thinks? So start small. Pick something. Don't overthink it. Go for a walk without anything in your ears and just listen to nature. Sit outside in your backyard for 5 minutes and close your eyes and just be. Color. Pick up a new book. Try a new museum. I mean, like, there's so many different things that you can give yourself permission to do without interrupting your normal life schedule. And like small little snippets will lead you to larger snippets because those small things, you're eventually going to pick up on the things that you really love and the things you're like, yeah, that's okay, but I could do without it. And you'll find your niche. And then once you start doing them, you're going to be like, ah, I love spending my time doing that so much. It's going to come naturally and you will naturally build more time into your day, into your week, into your month to do whatever it is that makes you feel like a kid again. I think that sometimes we get really wrapped up with, oh, well, I'm an adult now. That's for kids. No, 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 no. It works the opposite way, I think. That's for adults, not for kids. But it does not work the way that I just said it. That's for kids, not for adults. That does not work because every single adult has a little them. Every single adult, whether you've had trauma knowingly or not, there's a little you that yearns to be nurtured, to have the freedom of walking outside in the rain and getting your clothes soaking wet just because you want to, of coloring chalk in the yard even though it's going to rain and it's going to get washed away, coloring outside the lines even though it doesn't look perfect. Like, we need that. It's nurturing. males and females,
Mhm.
both. More so females, because especially in this culture where we're living, where we're, do, Miss Independent, and there's nothing wrong with that. I am one of those people myself. So I get it. But finding an outlet, one, two, three, as many as you need to make yourself feel seen, to take time for self-care in whatever which way or form that feels. But starting small and showing yourself grace and not being afraid to hate what you try. It's okay. It's okay to end up frustrated or angry or just completely disappointed. But walk in with no expectations to the best of your ability. And when you leave, take time to reflect. How did that make me feel? And why did it make me feel that way? Because the why is going to get you even more reasoning than you asked for in the first place.
Mm.
Childlike play is in here for all of us. We got to give it permission
Yeah.
to come out.
I see it as it's heart consciousness. You're not thinking with
Yeah.
your logical mind. It's like, and as you were beautifully sharing and reflecting on that, I think about a good starting place could just be reflecting on, because oftentimes we're so in our head. Well, what could that be? And overthinking it. That's
Mm-hmm.
me. Hello, like overthinking the perfection of like starting the thing, doing the thing, and that was really part of this project, is like just do it anyway. But I think about a really good starting place could just be, what did you love to do as a kid? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have been told I love to talk my whole life. I love to teach. I love to share. And it's like, oh, well, I mean, the child was just this innocent, pure soul that wasn't thinking. So if you're kind of like stuck on, well, what is the thing? I don't know. Is it dancing? Is it singing? Is it playing with chalk? Is it painting? What did you love to do as a kid? And just start there and approaching it with childlike curiosity. Like, this is a creative journey that you get to embark upon, not because you're trying to find the thing so that you could start the business, to quit the 9 to 5, because like Dani said, it will flow. And that's my invitation for everyone that's listening, is you don't have to do what Dani and I did and
No.
quit your 9 to 5, literally not flying by the seat of your pants, because the roller coaster has been a roller coaster. But you can start to like build your own islands, like swim to your. So this is how I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. Actually, I like how this is coming through. You can come from your big island of stability and just one day swim over to and start building this little island, this cute, tiny little micro island that's like your safe space.
Yeah.
And every time you pick up the chalk, or every time, and it might be a very laborious, tiresome swim, and you're like, okay, well, that wasn't as easeful. So maybe that's not your thing, but just play and get curious about it, because the thing that's your thing will be so, it's like they always say, and I found this to be true in my life. Like, I could stay up until 2, 3 a.m., wired, so energetic, even though I'm tired, whenever I'm doing something that I love. If it's creating videos or it's reading a book about holistic living, soulful entrepreneurship, coming back home, women, femininity, all of that. And it's because that's when like it's easeful and it doesn't feel hard. And I think we've been conditioned to feel like, oh, well, then that can't be it, right? Because force equals more work equals success. But
Yeah.
energy flows from these infinite sources and so fluidly, and the resources, like Dani was saying earlier, the people, the circumstances, all in due time will come and help to support you, because life supports that which supports more life. If whatever you're doing and you're surrendering to be a vessel, just a beautiful vessel, that's how I see it, of divine energy, divine guidance, like just everything you need to be a gift to yourself and a gift to humanity, you'll be supported in that, because that's the whole point. We're not here 100% for us. We're here as part of a greater collective consciousness that's like booming right now. And I think just the one thing in the theme of all of this that I really feel called to share is that we now more than ever are being asked, being begged by ourselves and our higher souls and greater consciousness to play with the creators within us, because the world is changing so quickly. The
Mhm.
systems are breaking, and like we're awakening to the fact like, holy heckamabob, I can create something that's meaningful, that can make a difference in the world. And it starts small, like Dani said.
Mhm.
Start small. So have fun
And
and play.
as you were talking, two things came to mind. Taking should out of your vocabulary
Hmm.
when you're making a shift like this, crucial. Crucial. I wish that someone had told me that when I was making the jump. I wish that someone had said, Dani, find yourself a solid support group. Not a group that's going to be like, oh, well, are you sure you want to do that? Or what's going to happen if you do this? Or how are you going to pay for rent if you just quit right now? Like, no, 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 no. You want a support group that's going to be inquisitive, that's going to ask questions instead of saying, you should or shouldn't do this, or I would do this if I was in your position. You want people that are going to be inquisitive and that are going to support you when you make decisions without questioning why you're making those decisions. What was the second thing? I forget.
Yeah, community is everything. That's kind of the catalyst of where it all started,
Yeah.
is just to gather. Like we're meant to be in community with other people to
Hmm.
do life, and a lot of times people reflect who and what we are and what we get to sit with. And
I remember
yeah.
oversaturation. Remembering that even though a lot of people will tell you this, especially if you choose to go into a more creative outlet instead of doing like a trade or something that is looked at as quote unquote more stable than being in the creative world. Oversaturation. Someone is bound to tell you. I've had multiple people tell me when I made the transition from coordination to photography, Dani, that market is so oversaturated. Why would you do that to yourself? You're never going to get clients. It's going to be so hard to like make yourself stand out from everybody else. La 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 la. No, 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 no. That story is so wrong. There's no such thing as oversaturation. And here's why. There are countless of people in this world looking for the energy that you provide in order to hire you to do what you bring to the table. It almost has, and I say almost because it does have to do with your skill. You do have to be skillful at your craft, right? But aside from that, it's all who you are. People book me as their photographer not only because they enjoy the style of editing and the style of poses that I put my clients in, but it's because they get on a phone call with me or they meet me in person and they're like, I want to be friends with Dani. I want to spend 2 hours with Dani. I want to spend 10 hours with Dani on my wedding day. It's not really because of my camera. It's because of what I, me, Dani, the value that I as an individual bring to the table. That's why people are hiring me. And that's why people are going to hire you. No matter where you end up, people are going to hire you because of who you are, not because of the oversaturated skill that you're practicing. So, for any of you listeners that are considering going into a creative realm, whatever that is outside of your corporate job, don't ever, ever, ever let the word oversaturation scare you. There are millions of people in this world waiting for your energy to be in their presence, for them to be like, that's it. That's it. So, like, don't let that word scare you. There's so many people on the planet. It's not just your little town. It's not just your little city. It's not just your state. There's so many people. And we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all just trying to live and enjoy and indulge and find a way to make things a little bit lighter. So don't let that word scare you. Someone's going to mark my words. Shoot me a DM when you hear it. Dani, remember when you said it was going to happen? It happened. I will respond. Don't let that word scare you.
That is so true. You're the energy. You are the magic. It's you. And
It's
yes,
you.
your skills are important, and that's we live in a day and age where you can learn anything. Anything. Like how cool anything. You know, I'm learning how to start a podcast because we live in a day and age where it's so easy to do that, right?
Yeah.
Such powerful insights. I mean, goodness, we're gonna have another episode because there's so much
I was
more.
gonna say Bethany and I could talk for hours. So.
There's so much more to share, and we have, and it started on conversations on the couch, is like what I like to call it, and so now we're opening up in a way where we can connect with others. And Dani, speaking of DMs, I think that was a really, really powerful way, actually, to close this episode. More to come. Unless there's anything else that you want to leave, maybe one. How about let's do that? What's like one closing, kind of in the theme of soulful entrepreneurship? You're the listener. You're all excited about this. They're thinking about the next step. Like, what is one thing that you want to leave them with as we close?
As a female, to all the females listening, find yourself another girlfriend or two who share a similar mindset, who have similar dreams, who are open to discussing these wild, crazy ideas that come to your head, even if you're not going to fully act on them, but someone that's willing to entertain the conversation and help you pull out that childlike play. Find them and like literally hold on to them for dear life. You, Bethany, are one of those people for me. And I never thought that I would meet. I was never a girl who had a lot of girlfriends. In like high school or college, I had like one really good best friend who I still have to this day, and I cherish her. But living in Charlotte, I never thought that I was going to find girlfriends who got the spiritual realm, who enjoyed going to yoga, who just wanted to sit in nature in silence and literally just enjoy each other's company, who would stay in touch even if we moved to different states, like, and still be able to have these rich, beautiful, deep conversations, and always knowing and trusting that I'm never going to be judged, and I'm never going to be looked down on, and I'm never going to be discouraged. If anything, I'm going to be challenged. I'm going to be brought to a different perspective. But I'm always going to be supported and loved. So I think my biggest advice, if you take anything out of this podcast, is find yourself a girlfriend or two who feel like home and keep them.
You're that for me too. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and you're always welcome to come back here and connect with Dani. Dani, oh my goodness. We talked about your photography work, and Dani does videography work, and she's a yoga instructor in Charlotte. You have so many magical things, and she's also just a really wonderful person to go on a nature walk with and just to do life. I've been so honored to have you in my life. How can the listeners, in whatever capacity they want to connect with you, how can they connect with you? What's a good way?
Go ahead and follow me on Instagram for starters. Even if you don't want to chat, I would love to see that follow pop up and connect and see where you are and what you're doing. Even if you're not interested in photography and you found this podcast and something that I said resonated and you just want to chat, find me. It's at Moments by Dani _ Dani is spelled Dani. And if you are interested in photography and you want to work together, whether you're here in Charlotte or somewhere else, I do travel. You can go ahead and submit an inquiry on my website, and that's momentsbydani.com.
And I will link both of those below so that it's easy for you guys to reach out. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today in our house, and can't wait for the next one. I know there's another one coming.
There's gotta be.
There's gotta be. All right. Well, take care, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you.